Now today we are dealing with a very serious subject. You know, when I was back in medical school, we didn't call cancer cancer, we used to call it the big C. It was so frightening. But as you've seen, we've been going through all these life colors, and each color represents a different disease, and today is the green one. I want to take you back to the late 1970s when the Premier of China was dying from cancer. But as he was dying, he did something quite interesting. He said, look, we want to find out why do people get cancer in this country. So they did a survey. They went over all of China. And you know, when you have a totalitarian state, you have to obey the questionnaire. And it was so big, it was over 880 million people in this study. The number of researchers were over 600,000. Amazing. And what did they discover? They discovered that there were different rates of cancer throughout different parts of China. They found that the wealthiest areas of China had the highest rates of cancer, and the poorest areas had hardly ever any cancer. It became what was called the China study, the biggest health study done in history. And what can I sum it up? How do I sum up all of the conclusions? The fact is that the more milk, animal fat, animal protein that we consume, the higher the rates of cancer. The more milk, animal fat, and animal protein that we consume, the higher the rates of cancer. Now have a look at this graph. Okay, it doesn't come up on the screen, but if you look at this graph, right down in the bottom corner, this was in 1975, by the way, right down in the bottom corner, you've got Nigeria. Nigeria, in the 1970s, had the lowest amount of meat consumption and the lowest amount of colon cancer. I don't think it's the same today. The way I look at many people's plates, I think it's changed just a little bit. But look at the map of the world. In the red areas, you have the highest rates of cancer. And in the orange areas, slightly less, then yellow, then light green, then dark green. What you notice is the wealthiest countries of the world have the highest rates of breast cancer. And it's not the genes, it's not the people, because if you take somebody from a green area to a red area, their risks go sky high too. Now, what is cancer? Cancer is just a cell that gets out of control. It keeps multiplying and multiplying until you get a mass, and then it separates, and then you get a tumor that metastasizes. How do I prevent cancer? How is it possible? Well, you know what cancer loves more than anything else? Sugar. Cancer consumes sugar 20 times the rate of any other cell. So if you start to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you can starve the cancer. In fact, by fasting, some people by fasting for a few days, you can actually slow down the cancer. What else can we do? Well, we need to spice up our life. We need more herbs and spices in our life. To be honest, pretty much all spices that we use in our food, you know, the pepper in pepper soup and turmeric, all of those things help to control cancer. They do it by lowering the amount of oxidation in the cells. They reduce the amount of inflammation. Something like cinnamon, if you like cinnamon, that reduces the amount of sugar in the bloodstream. If you reduce the amount of sugar, you reduce the ability for cancer to feed itself. Now, obviously, you need food for that. Plant-based, sis, is the one to go for, absolutely. Now, what else can we do? There's a reason why black people, for example, black men, we have higher rates of prostate cancer than anybody else, mainly because our vitamin D levels are so low. Every day, we should be taking at least 10,000 units of vitamin D. And look, you know what? You can get it for free. If you go out in the sun, I don't see many of you out in the sun walking the streets with me. If you go out in the sun with some shorts and a t-shirt, you're gonna get your natural vitamin D. You don't have to take the supplement. But if you are finding yourself shut away most of the days, make sure you get at least 10,000 international units of vitamin D each day. Vitamin C is vital as well. You know, anything that helps your immune system, which is what vitamin C does, will also help you to prevent cancer. Right, now, what if I already have cancer? What do? Make sure you get some treatment. Don't just say to yourself, well, I've got cancer, I'm just going to go the natural route. You do need to be checked out by a doctor, but ask questions of the doctor. You know, it may not be that you have to have chemotherapy. There are alternatives like immunotherapy. Immunotherapy is where they use your own immune cells to destroy the cancer. It has far fewer side effects. Now, if you are also being treated for cancer, and I've seen this work with many people, you can increase the amount of vitamin D. You increase the amount of vitamin D to 20,000 units, and you can take intravenous vitamin C with your doctor about 20 grams per day. Now, if they say to you, well, look, you need to have chemotherapy, there's no other option, here's what you must do. Before the chemotherapy and after the chemotherapy, you need to fast. What that does, it slows down all the other cells in your body. Your cancer cells will continue to really work very hard, and it means that the chemotherapy then will be absorbed mainly by the cancer cells, and your normal cells don't get hit quite so bad. It's very important also, especially gentlemen, if you're worried about prostate cancer, or women, if you're worried about breast cancer, you must spend a lot of time each day exercising. I always say at least an hour a day. What does that do? We release this hormone, it's a stress hormone called cortisol. Cortisol wipes out a lot of our immune cells. Now, when you exercise, you use up that cortisol for what it's supposed to be used for. And that means your cortisol levels go down, your immune cells come up, and your immune cells are able then to seek out and destroy all cancer. Do you know, every single one of us has cancer, but our immune cells seek out and destroy it. That's great information for you. Now, I'm not able to tell you everything, so if you want to know more information, just check out the website or YouTube or the X. The next time we speak, we're going to talk about SDA. SDA, you heard of SDA? Stress, depression, and anxiety. But until then, I hope you arise in health, healing, and hope.